Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of the Versus Stars podcast third season. And my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. It's an amazing episode because Nick Edwards boards the mothership to discuss Stilettos on Kickstarter. Now come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Mr. Edwards. Thank you so much for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me, man.
It's really my pleasure. So I always have a question of inspiration. So inspired love for comics and who are your earliest influences?
Oh man, I've loved comics since I was a kid. So my earliest influences that first got me into drawing my own comics as a kid were probably actually the Captain Underpants books. Those books, Dave Pilkey, so funny, and just about two kids making comics together. Very relatable. And so there for sure. And then before even really any of the Marvel comics, the X-Men animated series, I like remember, and then that launched into, Batman animated series and Superman animated series and all, like Justice League, all that. And I loved all that too. So a lot of those shows, but then getting into comics, honestly, I've always been a huge X-Men fan from day one. My first collector purchase was I got a lot of the whole Executioners song collection on eBay. And that was pretty cool. And so yeah, so really those are really what got me into the scene in the first place. Yeah, I guess X-Men and Captain Underpants. Yeah.
Interesting combination.
Yeah.
So, thinking about the X-Men and other comic books like the X-Men, what did reading the X-Men teach you about creating your own comic books? As we're going to talk to you as being a comic book creator yourself now, what did you learn from reading those comic books?
So probably the one of the main things that I take from X-Men is that like everybody has to have a distinct voice and like people can't all just sound the same, and that can be really hard. But like with all those characters, like you could take like a random word bubble and not like show who said it, and you could probably tell who it is just by like, Nightcrawler's like throws in some German, and like Colossus throws in like a little Russian, and like everybody has like such a distinct voice even. So finding your distinct voices for your characters is probably the biggest lesson I took from those books.
I do agree. I mean, there's a few writers, famous ones. I know Michael Crichton. His characters are interchangeable, and you don't know anyone can say anything. It would sound exactly the same. But
Yeah,
he's one of my favorite writers, but he does do that, unfortunately. But yeah, the X-Men is a huge cast of characters. So,
huge.
what did you learn about how to deal with a significant sized cast?
That it's really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really difficult, and people who do it well are just hats off to them. It's and so I do try to write most of my stories with like a fairly small cast of characters, relatively, I guess, for that reason. Um, and yeah, yeah.
So the book that you're working on now, and it's live on Kickstarter, but called
Yes.
Stiletto. Where did the idea originate?
Stilettos.
Stiletto.
Yes, plural.
My
Yes.
apologies. I forgot
No,
the S. There is more than
no.
one.
There are
It'd be like an
two.
aliens thing where the first one's stilettos, people
Yes.
is stilettos, as we move on, and the
Mm.
third one would be like more stilettos, and we just keep.
Yeah.
So for stilettos is the name of your book. From where did the idea
Yes.
originate, and what intrigued you about the concept?
Oh man. So I wanted to write a story where like there are characters that you love to hate, and especially in like stories that involve a lot of violence,
Hmm.
there are characters that you like to see bad things happen to, that you want to see bad things happen to, and then there are characters that you want to see like survive and get out. And so I really wanted to write a story about like someone who was like, while flawed and not perfect, somebody that you could really root for, and somebody that like does not deserve to be in the situation that they're in. and I wanted to write a story about them doing bad things to people that do deserve it. And everybody loves a good revenge story, and that's we tried to do. Me and my buddy Scott, we tried to do our twist on the revenge slasher story with this one.
So the tagline for the book is that monsters always look like monsters. So
Yes.
is the protagonist then, who's named Jenna, is she the monster of the book?
No, no. Sometimes people have to do really bad things to survive, but that doesn't make somebody a monster. No. The, yeah, monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes looks can be very deceiving. And but people always show themselves. And I think it was Maya Angelou who said that when somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Yes.
And yes, yes. And yeah, so this book's a lot about that a little bit. Yeah.
So if Jenna's not the monster of the book, who is the monster of the book?
Oh, you gotta read. You gotta
Okay.
read to find out. Yeah.
Okay, it's a surprise. It's not we're not it's not like a Freddy Krueger thing where the villain's quite clear when you start the film.
No, no. The villain or villains will become very clear as you read the book. Mhm.
So is the monster human or something beyond human?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. You got to read to find out.
So to go to the protagonist, which is Jenna, she is a dancer.
Yes.
What makes her a compelling protagonist?
Uh, Jenna is a very hardworking person and a person who is, like so many people out there, just shit happens. That life happens to us, and we can't always plan for everything, and we just gotta keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep moving forward when shit hits the fan. And that's what she does. She perseveres, and she, in our book, finds herself in a series of very adverse positions, and she's just gotta, she's got grit. And I think people want that in a protagonist. They want somebody to root for. They want somebody who like will fight for themselves, and that's what she does.
So Jenna is the vehicle in which the fans will experience the comic book. So,
Yes.
what makes her the ideal individual in the story to be the one that the audience will experience the whole story through?
Well, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about the plot. So Jenna and her best friend Tanisha, who is they were both along for the ride. They both find themselves caught up in the events of our story. They both really they I think provide a very like they are in a situation. They are not in home territory, so to speak. They are out on a limb. They are in foreign waters, so to speak. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Being the odd one out and maybe being in a place that you don't necessarily want to be, but it's kind of what you have to do in that moment. And I think that can be a relatable experience. And I just I yeah, I wanted her to be very real, and real people are flawed, and real people mess up and do bad stuff sometimes. I know I have. And yeah, nobody's perfect.
So, when you think about the idea that of the comic book, um, is it horror slasher? Is it revenge thriller? What like how would you if you had to pigeonhole this into a certain box? We love our boxes. Which boxes are we checking?
Sure. It's definitely it's a monster story. And so it is a horror movie. There are elements of revenge, thriller, suspense. Um, it's a lot of different things, I think. But it's a horror story first and foremost, a monster story first and foremost.
So, in the land of monster films and especially slasher films, both monsters, there's always that term, the final girl. As we
Yeah.
go, I guess things Jimmy Curtis is like the famous one, Nev Campbell, famous final girl.
Yes.
Does Jenna fall into the idea of a final girl? And if she is, what makes her that girl?
Because she's a badass chick, but she is a badass chick who has to figure out that she's a badass chick. And she does. And that's what like Jamie Lee Curtis, uh Nev Campbell, all those that you just listed. I mean, they're all badass chicks and they're all just so rootable. Like you just root for them. And yeah, I do hope that people would see some of that when they look at Jenna too, because I do.
So, for when we're talking about her being, the final girl and a badass, her decisions to act in this story, are they acts of desperation? Has she chosen to now, I'm going to focus on this revenge against the monster? Is it something that just kind of, like I said, she kind of falls into the situation?
Well, and not to give too much away as well, but Jenna and her best friend Tanisha, they both, yeah, start to do they do a lot of stuff to survive the situation that they've been put in that they didn't have a say about, and they, yeah, find themselves in the middle of. And but then I think they experience another very human emotion, that when you see somebody that you love or somebody that is like you or in a similar situation as you, when you see somebody or something else do a bad thing to them, you want to get payback,
Hmm.
and you want to settle the score. And so is a there's a fair amount of that in this story.
See, what I love about stories like this is that they hit on the audience idea of what would you do? That situation, the kind of allows you to kind of live vicariously through that protagonist.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Edwards, what would you do? Is Jenna making the wise decision, or is she making a rash decision? And where would you fall in the decision making process?
Man, she doesn't have, like, she's making the only decisions that any person could make. We see her back against the wall in a lot of ways. Um, and there are other characters too that I I think that it's kind of stories like these are so crazy. You can't know what you're going to do unless you're in a situation like that. I don't think anybody who hasn't been in like a life or death situation like that knows what they would do. I think we all like to think that we would like do the brave heroic thing and step up and put our chest out and save the day and all that, but I don't know. We don't know. We
We're
so
all very heroic from our couch.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. It is easy to dream and it is easy to like paint yourself as that picture. I think we all do it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
No, that is a good point. I mean, most of us do watch horror movies, especially slasher movies. We're like, no, and they're like, why the hell would you do that against it? Do this, do that. And I think to myself, in reality, we just shit our pants and cry in the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. Just let's all hang it up. It's over. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If anybody starts like, yeah, any sort of horror movie situation, really, I'm just
Hmm.
like, we had a good run. We, yeah, let's.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, in my head, I definitely I watch the movies going, I kick his ass. It's like,
Yeah,
ready? I'd kick his
Easy,
ass. And then,
easy.
right, and then in real life, I'm someone like you bump into somebody walking through a supermarket, you're like, ooh, hopefully he's not angry
Oh,
at
oh, yeah.
me.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, Jason Voorhees is going to tear my head off. There's really not much I could do about it.
No. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you could try moving at a quicker than a walk pace, because apparently he doesn't run.
You know, that's true. That would be a pretty solid strategy. Yeah, we need slashers who run. What a concept. Well, that's kind of our first book we did, Gator Man Kills. He's pretty fast.
Yeah.
And he's a slasher for sure.
But okay, but he doesn't just because I know Michael Myers and Jason are they walk. I mean,
They move at a languid pace.
right, like if you ever got into a car, you figure you
It's
should be
just,
okay by
yeah,
that point. You just drive a few hours down the road, you got a couple of days on
right,
them.
right. But Freddy, it would be I think the hardest one to get away from.
Yeah, I mean, long as you can't stay awake, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, yeah, but
Yeah, Freddy's he's kind of difficult. And the one thing
yeah.
kind of fun is that if he controls the dream world, really the ability for you to be able to beat him up on any level is should be zero because he literally is like god of an entire like realm. So I don't know what you're doing to stop him, but
Yeah.
they figure it out.
Yeah, he is a deity. So that's kind of tough to go up against.
Well, I assume you saw the first movie when she pulls him out of the dream.
Yes, it has been so long, but
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, Nancy, she sleeps. The whole plot is that if she can hold on to him when she wakes up, he'll be pulled out of the dream. What makes you question, then, are you saying that we never held on to anything while we're dreaming when we wake up? I mean, I assume at some point that we've never held on to anything in the dream at any point in our lives when we wake up, because I assume we would take it out like weird cats, like hippos with horns. I don't know. Because I
Yeah.
assume that would be like what would happen over
Any dream
time.
stuff, but no. Yeah, no. There would have been so many swords in my bedroom when I woke up, if that were true.
There would be a tons of weirdly fuzzy looking things that you can't quite recognize because my dreams are not usually I'm not a vivid dreamer, and this whole world would be just filled with these weird looking half realized dream creatures running around if that was a possibility.
That's wild.
So to dive deeper into Stilettos with you.
Yeah.
So the art is provided by Scott Beecher.
Yes.
Okay. So how did this partnership first form?
Oh man, so Scott and I met at the North Texas Comic Book Show in February 2020, right before COVID in Irving, Texas. And Scott started Unearthly Comics like 10 years ago. And Scott had set up at this North Texas Comic Book Show as Unearthly Comics. He had a booth there and a table, and I went to the show, and I had a bunch of scripts that I'd written on my laptop, and I wanted to just maybe meet somebody and do some networking. And I just went up to his table, and he had some of his art out, and he's awesome. He's really good. So I was just like, dude, your art is sick. And we just started talking about his art, and then we started talking about comics, and we both, very quickly like got on to horror movies. We both are, and just like horror stuff in general, both huge horror geeks. And and just a deep love for all of that. And so we just kept in touch after the show. COVID happened, lockdowns happened. And we just stayed in contact. And I sent him some scripts I'd written, and he read them, and then he came back and he pitched me on the idea for what became our first book, Gator Man Kills. And he had this whole character in mind, and kind of this plot in mind for a story. And he like pitched me on it, and I thought it was like a really cool, fun idea. And I wrote the script that summer, 2020. And then we ended up doing in 2021, we did a successful Kickstarter for that book. And that was awesome. And so that was a great first partnership. And he brought me into the fold with Unearthly. And so we both kind of, I help him a lot, run that label and everything, based out of Dallas. And this is our second go around at a graphic novel and with Stilettos. And that's kind of the story of me and Scott. But yeah, that was a very long way of saying that we met at a convention now, like almost 4.5 years ago, which is crazy. Where does the
So
time go?
my understanding is that it's a black and white book. Is that correct?
Yes.
So having also written a black and white book, not horror book, but a black and white book, I find, and I could be just wrong, but I find that black and white books put a lot of responsibility on the penciler and to really flesh out a world and make it feel real, even though it's obviously we don't have the colors and the brights and everything else. So how does making a black and white comic book impact the how the story is expressed, how you worked with him as the artist?
So we both, in early talks about the story, we knew we wanted it set in the middle of winter. And we knew we wanted it to take place in at this very beautiful mountain estate. And a lot of the story takes place outdoors. And so there's a lot of snow. And that's a great opportunity for a lot of like white with in the black and white and everything, which looks really cool. There are some scenes where some characters find themselves in some dark enclosed spaces, so a lot of shadows too. And Scott's just so good. He's so good at drawing, and he really likes doing stuff in black and white, and it's great for our story. It was great for our first one. We're able to do when we printed our first book, we printed it on a yellowed, almost faux newspaper type of page. And so it really just mirrored the look of like a lot of old pulp comics, which was really cool. And we just loved that. And so we're going to try and do something a little similar with this one.
So the book right now, like as I said, is available on Kickstarter.
Yes.
So what are some of the rewards our future backers can look forward to?
So yes, so we are on Kickstarter, and yeah, we hit our funding goal, which
Congratulations.
is really, really awesome. Thank you. So now we have to do it. We there is no escape. There will be a book, whether we all like it or not. So that's pretty cool. And so backers, we've got a few different tiers. We've got a digital PDF tier. We've got our trade paperback tier. Everybody who backs, their name is going to appear in the thank you page in the back of the book. We have a double feature tier where if people missed our first book, Gatorman Kills, they can actually opt into this tier and get both books at 75% off each. Then we are offering a retailer bundle for 5 copies of the book at half cover price. If there are any comic book stores out there who want to get a bunch, if they have some readers who like indie or thriller stuff, we're trying to think about them too. And then we are offering a variant cover of the trade paperback as well. So backers, they'll get both versions. They'll get the standard cover, which both of them are done by Scott. The standard cover looks great, and I really love it. But he has been so excited about doing this variant cover. It's gonna look sick as hell, and we're gonna see. I think right now we're so thankful for all of our backers, every single one. It's awesome. But we've got some ideas for potentially some flex goals. If maybe we could hit 50, that would be pretty cool. But who knows? Who knows if we'll get there? That would be awesome. And there might be some goodies involved, but that'll be a surprise.
So now that you're a successful Kickstarter campaign runner, what's the key to creating a successful campaign?
Oh gosh, just having friends and family that are willing and able to like just support you chasing your dreams, and then Also just getting to know people, getting to know comic book shops around the area. Um, but just you I guess you can't be afraid to ask the people in your life for a little help, because Scott and I wouldn't be anywhere without our families and just without the support of people in our lives. And so we're just super, super thankful for that. You can't replace that. It's amazing. But yeah, also I would definitely say to anybody who is thinking about doing one, go get to know the people working at your local comic book stores. If you live in a mid to large size city, there are probably at least a couple comic book stores in your area. And if you go to them, you will be able to learn the difference between the cool ones and the ones who just for whatever reason aren't as cool.
Mm.
And and in a lot of cities, there's some stores that really are indie friendly and local creator friendly and real patrons of the local scenes out there. So go find those stores and just like hang out, go buy books on Wednesdays, like go get to know the people working there, and then like and build that network that way. That would be a definite recommendation.
So, are there stretch goals incoming?
That's the goal, man. That is that's the goal. Maybe we got to get some more backers to get some stretch goals, but we would really love to do some other stuff. Scott is currently hard at work finishing the art for the book. He has finished the vast majority of the art, but we really would like to get books in people's hands this fall. Ideally sometime in August or September. That's the goal. So Scott's hard at work right on that right now. We've got some ideas for some stretch goals, but right now, since we just passed the funding goal, we are just really happy with that. We're gonna consider it a win.
So, between which dates is the campaign active for?
The campaign, we launched it on June 1st, and it will be running until the end of the month.
All right, very cool. Mr. Edwards, an absolute pleasure talking with you, sir. And for our listeners, it's Stilettos. When you watch the interview, there'll be a link to the website in the show notes. So, guys, get what you can, support the book.
Thank you very much. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at Unearthly Comics. We'll be making other cool stuff too. But yeah, support the Kickstarter, support independent art, and thank you, Jeff. Very, very cool of you to have me. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for talking, man.
So much. Have a great night, sir.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Verdant Stars podcast. Please help me better the algorithms by liking and subscribing. Be sure to turn for the next episode when Rachel and Cheryl boards the mothership to discuss Star Trek Discovery. To next voyage, travel on.